Hello, Pisces. Jupiter is in the sign of Leo until the 11th and will then ingress into the sign of Virgo. Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, your sign, until the 18th and will then go direct in Pisces on the 18th. What's going to happen this month generally is that you're going to become more centered on logic and more focused on logical thought patterns, like how can I do this and progress in a logical fashion? And then how do I identify logical outcomes? You know, the scientific method, pretty much. So this is going to be what you're focused on up until the last third of the month. And at that time, you're going to become more critical of yourself, and you're going to become more critical of others as a sort of a outcome of you kind of saying, okay, here's this, and here's this, and this is the outcome that I expect, and then this outcome isn't proper, so then it's going to force you to get critical. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're being critical of yourself or others, because what you see in others, you see in yourself, and vice versa. So, and this has to do with Jupiter going into Virgo, which is critical of the self, which makes one critical of others. So you understand. So understand that this is how this is going to play out. But then there's, when this kind of thing happens, it's because you're not understanding, and this is key, because you're not understanding, Pisces, that people, firstly, don't always tell the truth when you question them, to find out if something is a fact or not. And to be clear, scientific facts are based on the outcome of studies. And those studies are based on what? Funding. And gee, would people ever perhaps fudge results to make money? I don't know. People would never do that. Would they? And you know what? Our whole reality is based on that. So maybe that's why things don't work. All right. Now, let's see how your ruling planets of Jupiter and Neptune affect you this month, Pisces. I'm Pastor Rosemary, the Astrology Angel. Thank you for joining us. This is an angelic horoscope transmission from your guardian angel Gabriel, who resides over all of the water signs of the zodiac, and your specific Pisces angel Amnitziel, who resides over your mutable water aspect. And these are his messages for you in love, money, and health. First, we're going to go into the love transmission. In the love transmission, you're going to have a lot of self-reflection. Amnitziel's health transmission is focused on sort of reflecting on yourself and what makes you tick. And you'll do better this month, and we'll get into this in the health transmission portion of this video later on, to kind of maybe give you some ways to just do simple breathing techniques in order to make this self-reflection easier for you. Because you might be too focused on others and concerned about them, and sometimes you have to bring it home, right? And go back to the self. Now, you're going to feel a little bit better when it comes to your relationships in August. Again, be they friendships or significant others or spousal relationships or family, because you're going to find that generosity will be making a comeback, and that people won't be so suspicious or put off by your attempts to be generous. They'll understand you better, because they'll understand themselves better. Again, because the more we understand how we are put together and how our own psyche functions, then we'll understand, how others are relating to us. And again, remember this again. We said it earlier in this video, we'll say it again. If you think that something isn't working out the way you had planned, like you do this and you do that, and then you're supposed to get this, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen if you're not using something that you know for sure is tried and true. If, something that you know for sure wasn't fudged by someone buying someone off or whatever. So you have to make sure you know exactly what you're dealing with. But again, it's not going to be healing for you in your relationships to try to get to the point where you're so critical about yourself and others, and you want to make sure you never make a mistake, and that nobody ever sees you make a mistake. And that if they do, well, that's the end of it. You can't have a relationship with that person because you're so embarrassed or whatever. Facing embarrassment and calmly walking through it and looking at someone right in the eyes and dealing with whatever is the only way to overcome, quite frankly, war that we have with other people. I mean, we have our personal wars. We have wars with other people. And then that grows into wars between larger groups of people. So you get to the point where you're having wars between nations. And someday when we're a united planet, it might lead to a war with other planets. You don't want that. You want things to be congruent within yourself. And you want to be able to look someone in the eye, and whatever they say to you, you listen to it, and then you let them tell you how they're feeling, and then you say how you're feeling, and you negotiate. And you work it out, and you try to understand how someone else might feel. And the important point, why Rosicrucian Kabbalah is so helpful, is this. It's because you get to the base of human nature if we're focused on the needs of the body, and we understand that the human nature, in the 3D plane, is always to receive for the sake of the self, no matter how it looks. And the will to bestow is something that we consider spirit or God that comes through and bestows to us, and it may feel good or it may feel bad. And we think that if it's good, that it's God. And if it's bad, it's the devil. It's Satan, the opposer. And that's true. However, that's just God's right and left hand. That's all. That's just the front or the back of God. That's all. He's either turned his back on you or he's facing you. He's either blessing you with his right or cursing you with his left. And if you think God doesn't curse people, read the Bible. It says he cursed all kinds of creatures and beings in the Garden of Eden. So read your Bible. If you don't think God curses, it's in the Bible. It's in Genesis, right there. So, this is where, if you listen to Tony Kozenak, who studies with Dr. Michael Lightman, and I think that's on YouTube, Kabbalah Info, I believe, that Tony Kozenak explains that how we deal with prayer is this, and how we deal with what we see coming to us from God. And it's difficult. I'm not going to say it's not difficult. It's very difficult. But we have to try to understand. And that's where the work is. The spiritual work. And Jesus was a Kabbalist, so. All right. So, when we pray, if we're praying, what Tony Kozenak said is, if we're praying to God to give us something to make us happy and make that our life should remain comfortable, was his exact words, I believe. If we're doing that, he had mentioned it's a kind of a bribery. I'll pay attention to God and I'll pray to you and I'll ask you for stuff and I'll worship you, and if you give me stuff, do stuff for me, make me happy, and I'll give you praise. But if you don't, then I'm going to get mad at you, and that kind of a thing. It sounds like almost like how a child responds to a parent, So that's obviously not going to get us anywhere. It's made the world a very bad place. So how do we make it better? We understand, first, that good or bad is coming from God, and second of all, that idolatry is not great works of art, or the obscene weapons we use to destroy great works of art. No. Idolatry is believing there's any force other than God and other than the will to bestow, the Creator, whatever you want to call that just gives all goodness. Belief in anything else, that anything else could ever compete with that. That's idolatry, according to Tony Kozenak. All right, now, to go further with this, what he also said in his videos was that when we pray, we should say, God, make me how you want me to be. See, everything God gives you is good, no matter how hard that is. And let those good and bad situations shape you as like God is forming you, like a pot of clay for His purposes. And allow Him to do that. And when that is done, and you are then He'll use you for whatever He made you to do. He's not going to just waste it. He's going to use you for whatever you were made for. And that will bring you your highest happiness. And you need to understand and know that. Believe it, know it, understand it. And he had mentioned that there's faith. I believe it's under reason. He said the work in 3 lines. And I think, I'm not sure of his first name, but his last name is Wellman, Rebbe Wellman. He said it's a work in 3 lines. I believe it's the faith below reason, the faith at reason, and the faith above reason. Because it's all within our mind. And we do have to sort of now go beyond our just traditional religious teachings where, if you're bad, God punishes you, and if you're good, God will give you rewards. It kind of, we need to go a bit beyond that and understand and blend it in with science, because what's good about Kabbalah is it doesn't disagree that, and they don't teach Rosicrucian Kabbalah. I've studied that, but I'm not an expert in traditional Jewish Kabbalah. I know more about Rosicrucian Kabbalah. It's more Christian based, but so it's they're experts in that system. But I study it because it's all Judeo-Christian, that culture. So anyway, what we need to do basically is just, they said, give up sort of that religious bent on things and understand that there's more of a scientific application to our spiritual, what we have to do spiritually. And it'll make more sense, because this is what Jesus was trying to teach in the INRI on the top of the cross, INRI, which at the Kabbalah Center, Billy Phillips mentioned, and that it has to do with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, I believe. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but the last letter of each word gives you INRI. And in Rosicrucian Kabbalah, we just learned it was a formula for Virgo, Scorpio, and Leo, and that kind of a thing. It has a formula that goes with it, because the I is repeated at the end. So, with that said, basically, take this month to reflect on prayer. And to try to understand, as hard as it is in these bodies, how all situations work for our good, for those who love God and serve His purpose. And we'll get closer to understanding and closer to everybody being more comfortable. Because in the book Nano, it mentions that this Kabbalah Center cells. The book Nano, they talk about how suffering is part of this balancing of the will to bestow and the will to receive. So you have to sort of, if you have to space it out. And like the more people there are to share in these experiences, the more we don't have to be so uncomfortable. Because if we can share our good and share our bad, and we all share, then we're all a little bit more comfortable. And Rav Berg, I believe, yes? Okay. All right. Now to get to the new moon in Leo on the 14th. That's going to give you the ability to say no to people a little bit easier, but not as easy for you as it is for some other people this month, this particular month. So this month, just understand that you might feel that you want to say no, and you kind of can, but you'll find that other people are, it's easier for them to say no and easier for them to be dismissive. And don't worry about that too much, because in the I Ching it mentions that people who are more sensitive and people who are more empathic get abilities that other people may not get and be needed, when things really get bad, sort of like, the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that story. That's kind of what's going on. So vulnerability, sensitivity, empathy isn't always a bad thing. Just if we can just maintain some kind of balance and inner security in knowing that all this has a purpose and is being brought to its purpose. You cannot stop that. And it is all for your best and highest good and happiness. And everybody else's. Whatever makes them happy. All right. On the 29th, full moon in Pisces heals love triangles. Okay, your money transmission from a Nitziel. Your powers of analysis will be on an uptick in August, again, because of Jupiter moving into Virgo on the 11th. And you're going to be kind of nostalgic with Neptune retrograde in Pisces up until the 18th. You'll be more nostalgic about, well, I made money this way in the past, and I made money this way in the past. And can I make money or do the same job or have the same business or do the same thing and make money again? I want to do that again. I miss the way I used to make money, or I miss the job I used to have. I shouldn't have done this, and then I would still have that. And, you might feel that way a little bit during August. But when Neptune goes direct in Pisces on the 18th, you'll be able to move forward a little bit with those feelings and be able to feel like, well, maybe I could do this, something you never thought of before. Something brand new, something fresh, something new, again, after the 18th, for finding new ways to make money, new tributaries, to move into, that kind of thing, for, finding new ways to allow money to come to you. Because again, we all push things away because we all have different defense mechanisms. Okay, health. Your health transmission from an Nitziel Pisces. Jupiter in Virgo until the 11th heals the third chakra and the organs in there. It's like pancreas, liver, gallbladder. Don't eat so much fatty foods. Allow your gallbladder has to process that, allow that to heal, be a little, go a little easy on how much toxins you're taking into the body. And the pancreas is the ductless gland that generates the third chakra. Like the thymus gland generates the fourth chakra. The thyroid generates the fifth chakra. So just during this time, while Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, your sign, up until the 18th, you might feel like you don't really want to do much exercise. And if you do, do it, be mindful so that you feel like you know where you're going and you're sturdy, and then after the 18th you'll feel more stable when you get into exercising and you get into the lower extremities and exercising the lower extremities. Okay? Because Pisces, the fish and all the mermaid aspects and all that, sometimes you might not feel like you want to do a lot of exercising of the lower extremities, and then sometimes you go the other way. So this will change after the 18th. To go to something that can calm everybody down, because water signs might feel a little nervous in August. What you want to do is do some deep breathing from your abdomen. Do abdomen breathing rather than shallow chest breathing. So begin to breathe like you did when you were an infant. Breathe through the abdomen, and that will give you a more calm immediately. That's almost immediate that it calms down the anxiety when you do your abdominal breathing. And this activates the crown chakra of Keter, because in the crown chakra, that's where the babe resides. You were perfect when you came in as a baby, because you weren't aware that you were supposed to try to control everything. So you didn't. So everything was magical, and everything happened for you. If you could return to that, at least part of the time, things will become more magical. It's hard for us to do that because of we have trust issues. We all do. And again, you don't need the law of attraction if you remove some defense mechanisms. But when you remove defense mechanisms, people come in their way, not your way. And that's why we keep some of our integrity up. And as long as we do that, we have a tension that between the will to receive and the will to bestow that causes us to, it's kind of the shell around the soul, yeah? Okay. Now we're going to go over some of the planetary facets, some of the astrological aspects for you this month of August, so we feel we want to highlight for you. Okay. Jupiter, again, it's in Leo until the 11th of August, when that will ingress into Virgo. And the third, Jupiter is square Saturn. Saturn goes direct on the 2nd of August. On the 4th, there's Venus, which is retrograde, conjunct Jupiter. The 7th, Mercury conjunct Jupiter. On the 7th, Mercury conjunct Jupiter. On this 7th, also Ceres, the Divine Mother, in conjunct Jupiter. On the 11th, Jupiter is going to ingress in the sign of Virgo, the Virgin. On the 26th, the Sun is conjunct Jupiter. Now for Neptune, remember that Neptune is retrograde in Pisces until November 18th, and will then go direct in Pisces on the 18th. And you'll feel, again, more like, getting back to your maybe exercise routines, those kind of things. Moving forward, Okay, now Neptune on the 1st, the Sun is in conjunct Neptune, which is retrograde. On the 13th, Mercury opposing Neptune, retrograde. And on the 22nd, Mars in conjunct Neptune, retrograde. Okay, Pisces. This is your Angelic Horoscope transmission. I'm Pastor Rosemary, Astrology Angel. Thank you for joining us, and join us again next month.